Hey guys, just letting you know that there will be three screenings of Spider on September 28th, which I will now be referring to as Spider Saturday. You'll be able to see Spider at the Hell's Half Mile Film and Music Festival in Bay City, Michigan, the Chicago Horror Film Festival in the Windy City, and the Festival of Darkness at the historic Redford Theater in Detroit, all in one day, Saturday, September 28th. It is officially Spider September, and you guys don't want to miss out on this film because it stars this week's guest. So let's get into the show.
Death has come to your little town, Sheriff.
Have you ever felt a knife cut through human flesh and scrape the bone beneath?
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Be my victim.
You are all my children now.
Hello, my name is Austin Torres, and welcome to the Would You Die podcast, the show where we talk about our favorite horror monsters and villains. Today, I am joined by one of the most exciting names in independent horror right now. They are an insanely talented filmmaker, actor, writer, director, producer. You could see them in films like Phantom Fun World, Wolf Hollow, Light, the upcoming The Boy from Below, and my short film Spider, which is hitting the festivals right now. They also have their own short films like Cold Feet and Rabbit Season. And I believe Rabbit Season and Spider are playing a few of the same festivals, which I'm very excited for. Please welcome my guest, Spooky Madison.
Hello, I'm glad to be here.
I'm so excited that you are. This is not your first time on the show because we did the Boy from Below special earlier this year, but it is finally the first time you have your own episode, this has been a long time coming.
I think over 2 years.
Because if I remember correctly, I found your Instagram, I think, just through the horror algorithm being kind to us, and I approached you about being on this show, and instead we made a movie.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've been friends for a little bit now, but we be busy. Schedules are hard to line up sometimes.
So true.
And today's episode, I'm so excited because when this episode comes out, we'll just start National Hispanic History Month, I think. Yeah, it's History Month, right?
Is it Heritage?
It is Heritage. I'm such a bad Latino. Wow. It always confuses me because it's like middle of September. I'm like, why can't it just be October?
Yeah, we that makes so much more sense. And honestly, whatever.
I like having a month, if I'm being perfectly honest. I just wish it just didn't sneak up on me every year like it always does.
Yeah.
But I am super passionate about this topic, which we will be talking about Latino horror in Latino filmmaking in horror. And that's something that, with us both being Latino and filmmakers, we take that to heart,
Yeah, absolutely.
But before we dive into the topic, I always love to begin interviews with, how did you first get into horror?
That is a good question because I don't really know. I just one day woke up and was a horror actor, and I'm not really sure. I'm not sure when that transition happened, but all of a sudden I was in the horror community, and it turned out to be the thing that I was looking for. I had no idea that I was searching for this kind of community. And then here I was in this community, dived head first into it, if I'm being honest. And then from acting in horror, I began making my own stuff. So
that's awesome. Were horror movies something that you watched growing up?
Oh yeah, I loved being scared. And my mom probably would say differently because I'd crawl under her bed in the middle of the night with tears in my eyes. But I loved being scared. I don't know what it was. I would have nightmares constantly, but I couldn't stay away from horror. I really couldn't. And it's funny because at the age that I was scared of horror, for instance, Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, Jason, those those villains were what scared me the most. It was like the bad guy, but they weren't after 9-year-olds, you know.
Yeah.
Freddy might have been, but Jason and Michael Myers weren't killing, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-olds. But now, as an adult, at the age of what the victim would be, I'm not scared anymore. So, here we
That's
are.
interesting.
Yeah.
I was scared of everything growing up, and I didn't like being scared. So I don't know how I ended up here, but it also makes sense because, like, even though I didn't like being scared, I didn't think I liked horror at the time. My favorite movie growing up was Jurassic Park, and honestly still, and I loved like the Universal monsters,
Yeah.
like Frankenstein and Dracula and the Wolfman, especially the Wolfman. And then that led into like Alien and Predator, and now I'm now I love it and just enjoy all of the horror. But it's something where I'm like, I like looking back and be like, in hindsight, I see how we got here. But
Yeah.
you ask me back then, I'd be like, no, I would never make a horror. What do you mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think I saw myself making them. I wasn't really aware of movies behind the scenes until I was much, much older. Until I was far into my acting career, did I even realize that there was a whole crew behind the camera. I was just so blind to that side of it. And then I worked on Phantom Fun World, and it was so collaborative on set that I was noticing, people working together, and I was like, oh, I want to do that. Oh, I want to do that. So, and that's kind of what spiraled, into filmmaking, was meeting amazing people behind the scenes.
I love that so much because,
Yeah.
like, in your work, you could tell how much passion is put into your projects, and those are the type of films that get me the most excited when the filmmaker and their team, like the team of filmmakers, just like, oh, they had a blast making this.
Yeah.
Something I want to ask you specifically that I don't get to ask a bunch of people on this show is because I might be wrong about this, but you might have the same experience that I do. Why do Latinos love horror so much?
Because we were threatened with death by our parents at a young age, probably.
Well, it's so funny because, like, growing up, like, oh, I don't like horror, and I look back, I'm like, I think I did. Like, I
Yeah.
didn't, but I loved it, if that makes sense. Like, I
Yeah.
hated
Yeah.
it, but I didn't. And like my mom, I mean, you're talking about your mom. I'm like, my mom's a big reason why I'm into horror. I remember, like, she's the one that showed me Alien when I was 9.
Yeah. I think that's actually really common, because I have memories of our whole family. We had a huge family that would come together in the living room like every night, and they
Mhm.
would be watching whatever. And I have a very early memory of the whole family watching Terminator, and that terrified me. There was the scene where he enters the house with, like, I don't know, the guy and his family, and he like cuts his arm to show that he's a robot. And I remember looking at my family like, what the fuck are you guys watching? And so it must have been them that was influencing me, honestly.
I don't know, there's just something where, like, I have so much family memories with horror. Like, I remember being, I think, 12 or 13, like old enough to start getting into horror, but not like really into. I wasn't who I am now. And my cousin, who's 30 years older than me, we're talking. He's like, "Hey, you should borrow this movie, and it's Wrong Turn."
Oh.
And
Oh.
I still have it.
Yeah. Like on VHS.
It was DVD.
Okay.
I
Nice.
went to I went to give it back to him like a couple years later because I just had it for a few years. Like, oh, he goes, oh, I thought I lost that. I have a copy. You could keep that. I'm like,
Nice.
okay, it's mine now. But yeah, yeah, he's just like, yeah. So yeah, you should check out Wrong Turn. And I'm like, I am 12.
I am 12. I was around 13, I think, when Saw came out. Maybe I was a little older, but I remember when it finally came. I did not see it in theaters, but all of a
Mhm.
sudden, the Sci-Fi Channel was playing it over and over and over again, and I was up for like 48 hours watching the first Saw like over and over again, and it traumatized me. I to this day, it's one of my favorite in the franchises. So
Oh, I love that one. But I never watched it 48 hours straight.
I don't
I
know
don't
what my
think
problem was.
an observation I've made. I don't know if it's true in everyone's case, so I'm very interested in your personal experience. I found that a lot of Latino families tend to be very religious,
Hmm.
typically Christian. Mine definitely was like I grew up Catholic. I was an altar boy. So
Okay.
I was
Yeah.
I was in it. I don't know if it's the Catholicism or the like the Latino, but like I feel like a lot of Latinos, we love supernatural horror, like The Exorcist
Yeah.
and
I
The
mean, if you,
Omen.
yeah, I mean, Catholicism is supernatural. There's
Yeah.
some witchy shit going on in that.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
like we're supposed to believe that like the the communion, like the eating the wafer and drinking the
Yeah,
wine,
that's not normal.
and we're supposed to believe it's not metaphorical. Like we are actually eating the body and
Yeah.
drinking the blood of Christ.
Yeah.
And then the fact that a lot of Catholics don't like metal music when drinking the blood of your God is the most
That's so
metal
hard.
thing ever.
That is so metal. It goes so hard. Honestly. And I mean, what's the point of communion? I can't even fucking remember. It's you drink the blood of Christ to become Christ-like, right? To become one with Christ.
I don't remember exactly either, but I do remember it's kind of like a ritual honoring the Last Supper.
Right, exactly. Okay, yeah, yeah. I don't know. I don't really if I'm gonna if I'm gonna eat or drink the body or blood of anybody powerful, I'm gonna want their powers when I do it. So it's gotta
Right.
mean something.
Exactly. But I do think it's very interesting because like I'll talk to like extended family sometimes, and they'll be like, and sometimes they'll be like, are just other Latinos are like, most of the times they love horror, but the ones that don't, they're like, yeah, I'm not really into horror, but like The Omen, I fuck with The Omen. The Exorcist is great,
Yeah.
and The Conjuring, I there's a lot of love for The Conjuring, so I'm like that's just kind of like a trend I've found.
I mean, of course they're gonna like that stuff because it's so similar to the teachings of, the sermons and stuff.
Mhm.
So I don't know, like they just need to admit it. They like horror movies.
Yeah, because they're naming some of the more, uh, in my opinion, scary one. Maybe because I grew up Catholic, I think The Omen is very scary, and
Yeah,
definitely The
yeah.
Exorcist.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's funny because like other people, like they could watch The Exorcist in the like first thing in the morning, and be like, yeah, it's my comfort film, and
Yeah.
I'm like, really? But then like I don't get scared by slasher or like I'm trying to think of like a horror movie I didn't think was very scary, but I don't want to be like, okay, I got one. I didn't think Hereditary was very scary,
Okay.
even though it has a lot of stuff that usually scares me, like demons. Demons scare me, but it approached it from a different angle to
Yeah. It
where,
I
yeah,
I feel like there was a lot of symbolism in that movie anyway, of mental illness and familial trauma. So, yeah, that movie was so strange. I enjoyed it. I don't think it scared me either, but I think that it disturbed me just enough that I would watch it again.
for sure. For sure. That's why I want to be like, because I don't want to say a movie that I didn't think it was scary. And then people are like, you think it's bad? And I'm like,
Yeah,
that's not what you know how the internet be.
I do. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I do think it's fascinating. I don't know. I just think us Latinos, we love horror, but we
We do.
like,
It's true.
now we can kind of talk about our representation in the genre. And I feel like there's not a lot, even though we make up a huge percentage of the horror film goers.
The audience and the crew and also on screen, there's just a severe lack of proper representation when it comes to the Latino community. I mentioned this earlier, but
Mhm.
the term Latino doesn't mean, brown skin. It
Right.
means white to black. I mean, there's so many different variations of us, and there's so many different types of Latino that are just not represented on screen. But then when you get onto, behind the scene crew is incredibly difficult to find. I think I've only ever worked on 2 movies that had another Mexican on it, besides me. So
Right.
it's always a treat when you get to work with your people. Like I worked with Gigi on Grizzly Peak, and seeing her thrive in the horror community is so fucking inspiring. And she had this hat that she wears, and I actually bought it because it was so amazing. Are you ready? I have
Yes.
it. This says Chingona. Dude, it's so dope.
I love that.
Yeah, I wear it on set behind the scenes when I'm working, and I have like my hair all messy. I saw her wearing it, and I was like, damn, like she's so fucking inspiring. I wanna be her. And so I bought the hat, and I wear it because I feel like she makes me stronger behind the scenes.
I love that so much. My grandpa, who is a very inspirational person to me. Obviously, he's Latino. Um, just in case anyone listening didn't catch that, but he used to say "jingao" all the time. So
Yeah,
whenever that, so I saw the hat, and like to you, it represents Gigi as it should. But I
yeah,
just thought of my grandpa just now.
yeah.
Um, I promise this is going to make sense, but have you seen the 2010 Predators with Adrian Brody and Mahershala Ali and Lawrence Fishburne?
Mm-mm.
So it's a strange movie. I love it. It's basically the first Predator, except it's a bunch of like the most dangerous people on Earth get abducted and dropped on Predator Planet. And the
Oh, I
Predators are
have
hunt.
seen this. I have seen that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Danny Trejo is in it,
Hmm. Yeah.
and he says Jing Gao like after he fell from the sky. And
Yeah.
it makes me so happy every time.
I love Danny Trejo. That is another filmmaker that I can't stop loving him on screen, behind the scenes. Like he is just so cool looking. That is such a dream actor to work with. He's a
Yes.
legend. A
Mhm.
legend.
I met him at a Comic-Con. Uh
Cool.
he showed up, and obviously I had to meet Danny Trejo. My mom is her and I go to conventions all the time together, but she couldn't make it that weekend, and she was heartbroken because
Oh, yeah.
obviously like our Latino love for Danny Trejo. If you're listening to this and you're not Latino, our love for Danny Trejo
It
is like,
exceeds. It just,
and it's
yeah.
universal.
Yeah.
I've never met another
He is
Latino
all of
who didn't.
our he is all of our uncles, all of our
Yes.
father. Like did you watch Spy Kids?
Oh, yes. Uncle
He's
Machete.
all of our uncle. Yeah.
I gave him a lot of money because I asked for a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
which I'm sure he was cool with. I felt bad because I'm like, what if his wrist get tired? And my friend who was with me is like, you gave him a lot of money. He's fine. Like, he don't
Yeah.
mind. But
Also, have you
yeah,
seen his forearms?
that
They're
I
like,
have. Yeah. Like, he did not mind.
yeah.
But he had like an option to do video messages. So I paid for a video message, and I told him, "Hey, my mom loves you, but she couldn't be here. She was being a good godmother and showing up for something for her goddaughter." And I was like, "Oh no, I'm gonna meet Danny anyway." But she's doing the right thing, so I was like, "I'm gonna get her this video message." And he's like, so I told him that, and he's like, okay, cool. And just off the cuff came up with this beautiful poem. And I was able to show it to my mom and send it to her on Mother's Day because it was like the
Oh,
weekend right before. I think it helped that she didn't get to meet Danny at that moment, but I have my fingers crossed that he shows up at Horror Hound or Motor City Comic Con or something. He comes back
that
to
would
the
be fucking
Midwest.
insane. Okay, if he showed up to Horror Hound, that would be insane.
He's been in enough horror properties, and he'd
Yeah,
make bank.
that would be absolutely crazy if he was just like strolling in.
He
That
would
would be
love
so
it.
cool. I
I
feel
think
like
he
he would.
would.
Yeah.
It's like, and I think he'd be one of the bigger stars at Horror Hound.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they've got like some of the newer Scream people, and
Oh yeah.
they're doing the Nightmare on Elm Street panel this year. So they've got a pretty good set of people. But then, the closer we get to the con, the more people that drop out, and then they replace them. So it's
Right.
like, who knows who's actually going to be at the convention?
It's hard to tell because like a lot of these like celebrities, they commit months ahead of time, but then they get a job. You have to take the job, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I feel like 2 years in a row, Katie Seagal cancels, and then right afterwards, Mike Flanagan cancels, and it's like, oh, because you guys are fucking making a movie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And it's like I get bummed, but then I'm also like, but this means I'm gonna get to watch something epic.
it's just more content for us to consume. I'm fine with
Mhm.
it.
Exactly. And it's like I love meeting like my horror heroes at conventions, but at the same time, I want them to work.
Yeah, yeah. This is gonna sound crazy. I have never gone and paid to see or get a photo with a celebrity. I've never done it. I've done it one time to surprise my friend who was the celebrity, and I paid to get a photo op with them.
That's
And I
cool.
surprised them, and that was fun because I hadn't seen them in a year. But then that was it. And then I've never done it again. And I think part of me is scared that I'm going to fangirl so hard, and then I'm going to ruin any chance of working with them professionally.
That's funny because I have the opposite of because I do it all the time. I first
Yeah,
off, I love spending money. I will always be poor, no matter
yeah,
how much money I make, because I don't like it in my wallet. I
yeah,
have
that's
to
fair.
get rid of it. But but I always think this is my moment to fanboy.
Yeah,
And this
yeah.
way, if I ever get the opportunity to work with them, I got it out of the way. I got my autograph.
That's so
I
true.
got my
That is so
picture.
true. Yeah, I should take that into consideration. I really want to see some people at Horror Hound, so we'll see. We'll see what I do.
And when this episode comes out, Horror Hound would have already happened. But
Oh, okay.
obviously, with podcasting, we're talking in the future.
Love
The
it. Time travel.
podcasting that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm saying this past Austin. So Austin, who's editing this, are releasing this, knows the answer, but I really want to meet Melissa Barrera.
Oh, dude, me too. She's so cool. I actually also want to meet Catherine Newton, who's also going to be there.
Yes. Yeah, they have a lot of people from Abigail, which is a movie I
Yeah,
really enjoyed.
yeah, me too.
But I bring up Melissa Barrera specifically because I think she's done great things for Latina representation in horror.
Hmm.
Just like being in
Just
the two
existing,
Scream film.
honestly.
Yeah, it just existing, but like I love her in those Scream movies.
Yeah, I do too. She really brings, I don't know the word, so I'm going to use the word melanin to the final girl trope. um,
Yeah.
she definitely brings a new look to the final girl, which is much appreciated because that girl, Melissa, she looks like my family. She might not look like me because
Mhm.
I'm very white passing, but she looks like my cousins. Like that's my family up there, and seeing her leading a horror franchise or a horror movie is so inspiring. It's so cool. Like, good for her.
Yeah, and then to go like straight into Abigail leading an ensemble of
Hmm.
some of the best working character actors
Yeah.
and not even just character because Catherine Newton, she's a leading lady.
Yes, she is.
She's a leading lady, but she's so good that she can character act
Oh yeah, I
just
mean,
as yeah.
I feel like she almost like stole those scenes when she was acting.
Oh yeah.
Like she's definitely steals the scene, and that is so cool because she has like these eyes that she does, and it just brings this depth to the character that another actor probably wouldn't do. There's a reason she was cast.
Oh yeah. And like Dan Stevens, who's having one hell of a year. Kevin Durant, who's also having a great year. Who else was in that film? Giancarlo Esposito.
Hmm.
Um, what's the kid's name? I know he passed away tragically.
Yeah, it's Angus
Angus.
Cloud. Angus
Yes,
Cloud.
Angus Cloud. He was
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, he basically, I'm not bashing his acting at
Mhm.
all, because I know where he was at mentally and physically during the filming of that. But he was basically his character from Euphoria, but like with a gun, another
I
gun.
never watched Euphoria,
It
so
was,
that was
it's
the
very
first time
similar.
I've seen him.
Yeah, it's very similar to his Euphoria character, which was just like a guy who didn't give a fuck, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like he was in it for the money, and he just knows how to play those really gritty characters well.
We could probably name off the whole cast because that whole cast was great. And I just love that a Latina was the one holding it all down. The one who
Yeah.
was like to be a lead of an ensemble like that where everyone else gets to have the fun, but you have to be like the one keeping it everything grounded.
Oh, I know the feeling.
Well,
I did that with Boy from Below. Everyone was having these fun character moments of being goofy and like having this dialogue, and I'm over here like, my people are dying, and I have to figure out why.
That's tough to do something like that, I'm sure. But Melissa Barrera did great doing that. I'm sure you did too. I haven't obviously seen Boy from Below yet, but
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I trust. I know it's gonna be great. I'm so excited for that.
yeah. I have been shown some edits, and it is one of the most beautiful films that I've ever been a part of. It is so freaking pretty, and it has a lot to do with our DP, Cody Newton. I mean, he is a genius behind the camera, and not only is he a DP, but he's an amazing director in his own right. So when there was an intimate scene that I was in, and that's not a spoiler, by the way. Um, and he really was so collaborative and directed us so well and respectfully during it. And I would work with him a million times over. He's amazing.
I love to hear that. And he's someone where I definitely need to check out what he's done before. So
Yeah.
because I gotta check him out now. He sounds incredible.
Yeah, he's got a reel out there on social media. I actually just posted it. I'll just send it to you.
Hell yeah, let's do it. I think it's a good segue to kind of talk about because we're both filmmakers. Sometimes when we need representation, we have to do it ourselves.
Yeah.
And Spider was very, very important to me because I'm I'm in a being close to Detroit, there's a lot of talent in the Midwest, but
Yes. Yes, there.
not to the point where like I feel like in the Midwest there's so much talent, but it's like a quality of talent over a
Mhm.
quantity of talent.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have so many amazing non-union actors in the Midwest that go underrepresented because they're not SAG and they're not in these big Hollywood films. But I mean, you and I make indie films. We know the hard work
Yeah.
and the passion that goes into these films. And honestly, when we're not pumping out all these movies just for the money, we're doing it because we want to make cool stuff with our friends. You know,
Yeah.
that's the art that I want to support, and those are the actors that I want to cast.
Yes. And like something that is important to because I like I said being in the Midwest I feel lucky to where there is so much talent
Yeah,
and a diverse amount of talent too.
yeah,
But as a Latino, I feel like I do have a responsibility to cast Latino, you know,
yeah, yeah,
because no one else really is.
yeah. I agree with that.
I'm at the point where I'm making short films with as you know, one person sometimes.
Yeah,
Uh, um, so like it hasn't always been the case, but Spider, I was so happy that you agreed to do Spider because I was like, I'm finally doing what I need to be doing and showcasing great Latina talent.
yeah. I mean, you were one of the only Latino filmmakers that I've ever worked with. Like I said, it's always good to work with your own people because there's just a deeper sense of understanding of what we're doing and why we're doing it.
Exactly. I think it's one of those things where like I'll work with anyone talented, right? And friendly. I don't
Yeah.
want to just say anyone talented. It's important to me that I work with people who are kind
Hmm.
and who want to have fun. Otherwise, what's the point? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally agree.
But at the same time, like I do want to make sure where if I find Latino talent that I write roles for them
Hmm.
because like we don't have and I feel like there's a good amount of Latino filmmaker representation
Yeah. But you
because I
don't
can
see them as much because, of course they're
they're
behind
behind
the
the
scenes.
camera. Yeah,
They're not the face of their own movie. So
exactly. So it's like
yeah.
I love Robert Rodriguez and
Yes.
Guillermo del Toro and Gigi Saul Guerrero and and everyone else who was part of Satanic Hispanics. Did you see that film?
I did. Yeah.
I love it.
I'm
Watching
obsessed with
that,
it. The whole
yes.
aesthetic of it is amazing.
I'm interested to see if you thought something similar. My only like it's not a criticism, but like negative thought I had watching that movie was like, fuck, I wish they had this idea a little later because I want to be a part of that.
I think that about so many things. I'm just like, why did I not get the notice?
Right. I'm like, your Detroit friends over here.
Yeah.
But everyone involved with that is so good, so talented.
Yeah.
It's a kick-ass movie with a lot of Latino representation.
Hmm. Yep.
I saw Latino actors who I'm writing down their name because I'm like, okay, these are people that I need
Oh,
to
I do
keep
the same
track
thing.
of.
I
Hmm.
do the same thing. I write down because I'm the type of person who will watch the credits of a movie just to see the names of the crew members.
Yeah,
And I always write down if I see like a Lopez, a Cortez, a Martinez, like anything. I'm always like, oh, I got to know these people.
right, right. And I don't know if you've seen it yet, so I'm not gonna go into spoilers, but I
Okay.
think it was so awesome that us Latinos, we had Fede Alvarez handle an
Hmm.
alien film
Yes.
and for it
And
to
he's
do
he's
so
good.
well.
I mean, once his name was announced, I knew it was going to be good because
Yes.
everything else he does is good.
Oh yeah. And then this one he cast Isabel, what's her last name?
Oh, I know who you're talking about. I don't know what her last name is, but she played Dora the Explorer.
Yes. Yes.
Isn't that amazing?
And she killed it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I actually found I saw a fun fact today. I don't know if you saw it, but it was about her. You know that still of her and that face that she makes, like the scared face.
Yeah.
The fun fact was when she turns around, they were about to throw water on her and she didn't know it. So they got that real reaction of her thinking that she was about to be hit with water, but she obviously they didn't. So like, yeah, it was. I thought that was interesting. It was very That's very Stanley Kubrick, if I'm being honest, but whatever.
Yeah. And it's funny because like in the original Alien, they didn't tell Veronica Cartwright that they were
Hmm.
going to spray blood in her face.
Yeah.
But they
Yeah.
actually
They
did
wanted
it on
those.
the original.
Yeah. They wanted that genuine reaction. And I feel like if you have an actor's consent to do that, I think probably that consent needs to be asked before,
Mhm.
every day because like it could change daily.
Yeah.
But like I have been in situations as an actor where I wish someone would do something like that to get the reaction because I'm either too tired, I've been shooting all day and we're doing the same thing over and over again. Something to spice it up a bit so that my heart rate starts going again.
And I appreciate something where like they did it in a way where well they didn't actually do it either, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Whereas like Stanley Kubrick would have
Actually
just
abused Shelley Duvall.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
I'm glad we've progressed where we could just kind of like, fake it, still get the reaction, but not you don't have to go all the way.
yeah, yeah. You don't have to hurt anyone's feelings or hurt them physically to do it. Yeah,
Exactly. But you can play, you can still play, you can still find moments of spontaneity,
yeah, yeah.
still get creative in finding those moments. But yeah, I think it's awesome that Fede Alvarez led such a big franchise
Yeah.
and he was able to, and he has a pretty diverse cast in it.
Yeah, I think so too. I was reading about the casting of I can't remember what her name is. The Asian girl. Do you know what her name was?
Not the actress's name. I think the character was Navarro.
Okay. I think you're right. I was reading about her casting process and how she got the casting call, and then 2 days later she was asked about availability, and then 2 days after that she was on a plane to going to set. It was, and she didn't even know what she was filming until she was almost there. She didn't know what it was.
That's insane.
I know. Yeah.
That's awesome. And by the time this episode comes out, a lot of people will have listened how I did a whole month of Alien episodes. Clearly, I'm an Alien fan, and I really enjoy Romulus. It just makes me happy that like there's Latino representation in my favorite franchise.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think there really was an Alien Covenant. There's I forget the actor. It's Damien I want to say Damien Rugna, but that's the director of When Evil Lurks, and he was a part of Satanic Hispanics. It's Damien something. He's in Godzilla versus Kong, is where I recognize him from.
Okay. Okay.
He has a he plays Lobo in Alien Covenant. I can't think of his last name. That's the
I'm not sure.
only. And I think Hector from Breaking Bad is in Alien Resurrection. But other than that, there's
Okay.
not a lot of Latino uh
Yeah.
representation in many franchises, but especially that one. Um,
Agreed. Yeah.
Predator has Danny Trejo, and there is some Latinos in Predator too. So Predator's
Yeah.
a, good in my book. Scream obviously made me very happy with Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega. And Jenna Ortega, a horror queen at the moment,
Yeah. Oh yeah. What a dream. What a dream, girl.
right? And oh, this movie will have come out by the time this episode releases, but we have not seen it yet. Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's fucking go, dude. I just watched an interview where Michael Keaton was saying that when Jenna Ortega walked on the set, he was like, wasn't she in the first one? Because of how well she fit into that whole Beetlejuice family.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And with her being in Axe and Scream and Wednesday's
Hmm.
huge.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're like me, but I devour podcast interviews with filmmakers and actors who I very much enjoy. And she she's like a student of film. She's talking
Yeah.
about a lot of deep cuts, and I'm just like, she's a lot younger than me, and I'm pretty sure she's seen more movies than me.
Yeah. She does seem like the type. I also I heard she's quite a homebody, so she probably is home watching movies all the time.
I need to fix my life. That's what I need to be doing.
Well, you need to be a millionaire and then you can sit at home all day and watch movies if you want.
That's true. That's true. I got to remind myself there's a reason why I'm not doing
Yeah.
that. But yeah, I think it's just stuff like that makes me so happy to see fellow Latinos kicking ass and succeeding.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something about it. It feels good, doesn't it?
It does. Representation, it really does matter.
Hashtag representation matters.
And like, this isn't a horror movie, but it's so important to me. And I didn't realize how important it was going to be to me until I saw it. But the motherfucking Pixar Coco.
Oh my God. Yes. Oh, I sobbed. I sob every time I watch it.
Me too.
I
Me
cry every
too.
time.
And it's just like, I didn't realize hearing the word chancla in a Pixar movie was going to like
Yep.
activate something in me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the representation right there. It's like, oh, you're seeing, your family on screen, and it all of a sudden means something so much more.
Exactly. And like growing up, we didn't have as much as I think Latino kids growing up now have. And the goal is their kids should have way more than what they have, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we always strive to be better for the next, the next people coming after us. In every aspect, I think is what the motto should be, whether it's generational trauma or representation that matters. I think that we should always strive to be better at, the generation before us. And every year of horror specifically, it is getting better. I don't care what the gatekeepers are saying. I don't care what people are saying about people rebooting classic horror films. I'm sorry that I didn't grow up in the fucking 70s and now I like the 2012 remake. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's things that scare me now that your 70s and 80s movies didn't. And I think the horror movies are getting better at representing, undervalued people like Latinos, like LGBTQ people. They are learning that those types of movies, and quite frankly, pandering to those audiences, is what sells. It's what people connect to on an emotional level. And it's just getting better. It's just getting better.
Exactly. It's getting so much better. And like, I love the 70s and 80s movies.
I do too. I have a huge
love
appreciation for it. Yeah.
But like, it's okay if you make, I don't know, a Halloween movie with a black person as the lead. I don't think they've done that yet, but it'll be okay if that happens.
Yeah. It's like when they made The Little Mermaid, with Halle Berry, and she's, a black Ariel, and people were freaking losing their minds over it. And it's like, oh, God forbid that you have a black mermaid being represented.
It's a mermaid.
It's a fucking mermaid.
Yeah. It's not like they made like Abraham Lincoln black. Then I'd be like,
that would be historically inaccurate.
And like, I could get that, but it's a mermaid.
It's a fucking final girl. It's a fucking serial killer. Like, we can, we can change it up a little bit, and we can allow people to feel seen.
And all I'm going to say is, if you have a problem with a character who is previously white being black, or who is previously a man being a woman, maybe be mad at the people in the 60s, 70s, and 80s who decided white males are the default. Because now those types of characters, like, there'll never be a male Ripley. Because Ripley was a novel idea. There could be like, for example, I don't know. There's so many examples coming to my mind. They're all like canceling, like not canceling each other up, but they're like forming like a dam. So none of them are coming out of my mouth. They're all in my brain trying to get out. But like, people, okay, Black Panther, the superhero. People are like, well, what if we made him white? That character was designed to be black.
That wouldn't have made sense. It's the history of the character that matters. Like, Abe Lincoln can't be black. Black Panther, which is literally like historically a thing anyway, with black individuals, like, of course it's going to be a black character. Of course it's going to be about a black storyline.
Right. And that's like a specific, when they were created. A lot of characters from the 60s through, I would say, late 80s, early 90s, they just diverted to the default, which was white male, which is fine, but like, those characters don't have to be that default. They don't have to be any sort of thing. They can easily, because they don't have any attribute to tie to a culture or to a sexuality or to a race. Not in the way Black Panther does.
Exactly.
And I said, Ripley, I don't even think that's true. I think you could write Ripley as a man. Ripley was written as a man. It would be so boring.
It would be boring. Yeah. And I think that's the funny thing is, take Jordan Peele, who prioritizes creating black movies, black horror movies.
Yeah.
And there's people who are like, oh, I mean, like, all his characters that are white are like bad guys, or they're supporting or day players. They're not even like in the movie. And it's like, that's fine. You don't have to watch it, because quite honestly, he's not making them for you. He's making them for him and his people.
And you still have hundreds of years, like 100 years of cinema to watch. Like,
and you know what? It's not new. The white main character man. That's not new. To this day, I still receive scripts from filmmakers who are like, I want you in this movie, you'd be perfect. And it's just this stupid girl who's like fawning over this vigilante man who's white usually.
Right.
And I'm like, I could play the man. Why can't I be him?
Right. Exactly. And like that's the default. It's okay if those movies are still being made. I'm not sure
Yeah,
I'm not
that's fine.
saying yeah, I'm just saying we deserve movies too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, and they're being made and like Jordan Peele's Nope. Brandon Pereira plays a character named Angel Torres. That's mine. I am taking
Yeah.
that's my initials, my literal last name. I
Yeah.
have someone I can identify with
Yeah.
so easily now.
Yeah.
Whereas
And you
like
know what's funny,
yeah,
because that character is the guy who helps. And
yeah,
that's what I think is really amazing about Jordan Peele's movies, is that like he takes an undervalued individual like Angel Torres, and then he makes them a part of the solution of the movie.
yes.
That's the cool thing about it.
And you know what? He still gives really good roles to white people. Like Elizabeth
Yeah.
Moss in Us.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was
So
a
good.
great sequence of her death, her crawling and like fuck the
Yeah.
police was playing on the fucking
Our Michael Wincott in
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
That's one of the best roles. That's basically Quint from Jaws.
Yeah. Yeah.
Except as far as I know, there are no Latinos in Jaws. I've seen that movie hundreds
You
of
might be
times.
right. You might be right.
I'm pretty sure there is a couple black extras in the beach scenes, but that's a
Yeah.
70s movie in like what, East Coast America. It's like in the 70s. Like I'm fine. But at the same time I'm like it's just cool to see a lot more Latinos and stuff.
Mhm.
My favorite movie of all time, Jurassic Park. The Latino role in that is the guy at the dig site telling the lawyer, "Oh, you can't get at Dr. Grant. He's a digger like me." I know that quote. One,
Yep.
because I've seen that movie so many times, but two, because it's like that's the only Mexican in the movie. Growing up, I
Yeah.
thought Jeff Goldblum was Mexican because he was tan.
Oh, you know what? I think I did too when I was little. I don't think I knew that he wasn't just white.
Right. I had no clue. I thought he was like because he doesn't look like, you know what I mean? I don't know, because I'm not like as dark as other Mexicans, but I don't think I'm quite I could think I'm closer to white passing than I am to like what most people think of as Latino, but you know what I
I
mean?
bet I bet if you got like a high cut, like haircut,
Oh,
you would look more Latino.
I definitely would.
Yeah.
I definitely would.
Almost like a pompadour in the front, like heavy on top but like real
Yes.
shaved. I bet you would look more Latino because you have like that white boy hair right now.
And that's kind of what that probably does a lot. And the fact that I never go outside. If I go
Yeah.
like I go outside, I do tan.
Yeah.
So, but I work a day job and then I come home and I work the film job and then
Yeah.
there's not a lot of time for anything else. But I'm getting outside of horror a little bit, like Star Wars. I grew up with the prequels. Tamora Morrison, who I believe is Filipino, he was darker skin. I thought he was Mexican. So I was like,
Yeah.
oh, Django Fett is me. Now, adult Austin has Pedro Pascal playing the Mandalorian and Oscar Isaac playing Poe Dameron and Diego Luna,
Yeah.
who's actual Mexican, the star of Andor and in Rogue One. And Diego Luna, and it was so cool to have a Mexican with an accent in a
Yeah.
Star Wars movie. That was
Yeah.
huge. That was
Yeah.
so huge.
Latino representation just being seen is great, but like actually hearing the language on TV or hearing an accent or just hearing like a even like a lilt in the voice where you can kind of tell, it's so amazing. That's what was cool about working with Gigi, is that like on set she does have a slight accent, and it was just really cool to see that representation, and also to be able to play her lover and have two Latinos be the leads of this movie was so fucking cool. I mean, and she had an accent, and I think that really brought a lot to her character and the representation that this film is showing.
Yes. Yes, and it's so I love that point so much because like I mean, what can I say that we haven't already said? You know what I mean? I
True.
I could
True.
ramble about it forever and ever. Did you watch The Last of Us on HBO?
Of course.
Pedro Pascal, he's doing an accent, but I think it's like a kind of like a Tex-Mex kind of accent.
I think you're right. Yeah, it's very like Mexican American,
Yeah.
um, like Southwestern. Yeah.
I forgot what he said, but there was a part where I had to stop it, rewind it. And this was a little kind it was kind of soon after my grandpa passed. But I'm just like, I swear he's saying like he sounds exactly like my grandpa at this moment. It was
Oh, I
so
love that.
surreal, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that
So
great though? Because like that's a part of that show that you connected to with your
yeah.
culture. And it's not even like at the forefront, but you saw it and you connected to it and you rewound it and you listened to it over and over again. That is what we need more of.
Right. And like a show made for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not just and like not just the shows where it's like because I think there are a lot of shows where like we have a black cast and we're made for black people, which
Hmm.
we need those, but we
Yeah.
need like Jordan Peele movies. We have a black cast, but everyone can
Yeah,
enjoy
absolutely. Yeah,
this.
absolutely. And he's not scared to say, like this movie is about a black family.
Yeah,
And it's like as a white person, you either watch it or you don't, you know.
right.
You've had hundreds of years of cinema to relate to. Now 6-year-old Susie over there can see herself on screen for the first time. Like that is, I feel like as a filmmaker he's probably feeling incredibly, he should be
Hmm.
feeling incredibly proud of himself.
Oh yeah, like you take Nope for example. It's about a black brother and sister,
Mhm.
but anyone can enjoy that movie
Yes,
because it's not
absolutely.
about them being black.
No,
It's
yeah.
about them that movie's about so many things.
Yeah, we could have a whole episode of that alone.
And we will at some point. Believe
Yeah.
you me, we will.
Yeah.
I love that movie, but anyone can relate to that movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just important that
It's
it's not always the same people in that
yes.
kind of movie.
Absolutely. I mean, just like, the child who was never seen on screen, who never saw themselves on screen, like they stood by and let the white people enjoy it, and
Yeah.
relate to it. And now it's 2024 and there's so many different types of representation that is becoming more normal. And that's going to bring a new level of love to cinema.
Yes.
Like that's why movies are so continue to be so popular, is because we're evolving and the audience is growing.
Exactly. And if you don't want to be a part of this, just cinema evolving and being more inclusive, you still got the great films of the 40s and the 50s.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Like, and I'm not trying to be like cheeky, but like I don't understand how you could be upset when you forever have Citizen Kane and The Godfather. Like, let's
Yeah,
be real here.
yeah, so true.
So many good things are happening. With that being said, there's still so much good that needs to be done.
Yes.
We've mentioned a handful of people. I wish I could say more and more and more, but there's not as many as there
Yeah.
should be. With horror movies, I'm trying to think of older movies with like Latinos in it, From Dusk Till Dawn, and I
Yeah.
struggling to think of anything. We're doing so much better now, but like I'm struggling to think of a classic horror movie for Latinos that's not From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah. I I'm sure there is, but
Yeah,
because it's so underrepresented, it's hard to think of. It's hard to pull out, at the name out of your head, because they weren't given the platform or the attention or the money to be in the forefront of our minds. You know what I mean?
right. And like I remember seeing in I think an interview or an article or something where Robert Rodriguez had to convince the studio to let the family be Mexican.
Wow. Okay.
And the family and I forgot what they said. It's like, will will people go see it if it's a Mexican like family? And Robert Rodriguez is like, well, why wouldn't they?
Yeah. What a
It's
strange
easy,
thing. What a strange
right?
thing to say.
But also like late 90s, early 2000s, that's was the common thought, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I remember in the early 2000s when the sitcoms came out. And I mean, you had like Family Matters, you had
Yeah.
Sister, you had, Monique, you had all these really great TV shows that featured families of color, but but they weren't super mainstream to the white man. Like the white man didn't watch those
Right. And
because they
that's
had their
yeah.
own stuff.
Exactly. Exactly. And growing up, I think all we had was the George Lopez show.
Yeah, yeah. And also, you know what? That was the George Lopez show is such great representation of what my family was, what it felt like.
Oh, it was so real. I love that
It
show.
was. It was. George Lopez's mom was my abuela. That was my Grammy.
I love that.
That is
I
exactly who
love
my
that.
abuela was. Yes.
And that was like that was such an important show to me growing up.
Me too. Me too. I remember I would fall asleep to it every single night.
Yes. I
Yeah.
just wish I had more than one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although, it's interesting because like there's so many great family sitcoms, right? And I can only think of the one Latino one. I'm sure there are more,
I'm sure
but
there
that's
are.
what I
Yeah.
can think of. I can't think of any Asian ones.
Oh, yeah. I can't either. And that would have been amazing to have. I had a lot of Asian friends growing up who, now that I think of, like the shows that we would watch at sleepovers,
Yeah.
like they were never seen on screen.
There were a handful of black families portrayed in sitcoms.
Well, yeah, because I mean, I think a lot of those, I mean, I'll be corrected if I'm wrong, if this is the internet, but they were created or the show was ran by white people. And a lot of the sitcoms were just that. They were sitcoms.
Yeah.
They were jokes. There was no like,
Gotcha.
you know what I mean? There was no like a leading Asian man in a
Right.
horror movie. You know what I mean?
And I don't think there are many now. I'm trying to think of
Yeah.
something. At least in like Hollywood. I mean, obviously, there's so much great Japanese and Korean horror, but that's different.
Right.
I'm trying to think of like Hollywood because I was like, oh wait, there's the ring. I'm like that don't no, not the you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
of Asian representation. I know this is a Latino episode, but like if you're going to talk about representation, you got to talk about it all.
Yeah. 100%. But this is
I
why
think
we're
yeah,
filmmakers,
exactly.
because we can make sure that what we produce is not only of quality and up to our own standards, but is also representing people who should be represented. I mean,
Oh yeah,
when I'm crewing up for a movie, I always hire based on merit and
yes.
skill and resume. But if a white man and a black woman have the same resume, I'm giving the job to the black woman because, first of all, I know she's going to get the job done. Let's just be real. But also, like, there's you guys have the same merit, and you know what? She probably doesn't have the same opportunity as this man, so I'm gonna hire her and give her this opportunity.
Right. And there will always be opportunities for white men.
It will never stop. This is
It
a
won't.
white man's country.
And like, I will do what I will whenever I'm casting something, I will do whatever I feel is right for the
Yes.
specific role. So I'm not going to be like, "Oh, because you're a white man, I'm not going to hire you." That's not true,
No. Yeah.
And I will the thing I'm going to do is I'm going to always try to make sure there's Latino representation in what I make,
Me too.
because I am Latino, and I can, it's more towards like my personal experiences, and I can more genuinely portray that in the films I make. And I would love to like work with people of all race and sexualities, but I don't think I would like write something that demands like a Asian point of view, because I am not Asian.
Exactly.
It would be
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
I would cast an Asian lead for a film, but it wouldn't be an Asian story.
Right. Yeah. Unless, of course, your writing partner or you had a consultant or you did the proper research and ramifications of creating an authentic, genuine story. But even then, like I said, you would have a writing consultant, somebody who
Right.
had a first experience to tell you, no, Austin, this is not how that is.
And that happens that happens a lot, not a lot, but it does happen now with like Prey
Mhm.
being a huge Native American film.
Yep.
The the writers and the director were white guys, but they had consultants, and they gave
Yeah.
opportunities to like, they made sure they had Native Americans on the crew in all
Yep.
sorts of roles.
And they made
So,
sure that the people portraying the Native Americans were Native,
right.
which is another point of representation that I think is never really considered, is that if you're going to cast a Native person, a Mexican, a gay person, please give those opportunities to authentic Native Mexican
Yes.
gay people.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was wrong earlier. I think there technically was a Latina in the Alien franchise before I thought of her, but she wasn't played by a Latina.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. It's like, that's fine. That representation is great. But I'm sure that that casting call said that this character was probably Latina, or at least her last name was mentioned. And I'm sure that Latina actors auditioned for it.
And I'm not gonna be like cancel one of the old. I'm not gonna be like that, because it's like 80s different times.
Yeah.
What's done is done. We just don't do that again.
Yeah. We're just gonna get better.
But like Vasquez in Aliens, famously played by, I think, a Scottish girl who is great.
Yeah.
But but if we make that movie now, let's hire a Latina.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Fede did.
Yes.
And Fede did. So I'm not gonna fault Aliens because it did something that was commonplace in the 80s.
Yeah. No. I mean,
It
there's no point in
Yeah,
wishing that it could change when we could just do better now.
exactly. And you keep the mistakes of the past so you can
Yeah.
learn from them. And it doesn't
Right.
make Aliens a bad movie.
Yeah.
It's a great movie. And she's great in that movie. When Bill Paxton's character, when she's doing the pull-ups, and Bill Paxton's like, "Hey Vasquez, you ever been mistaken for a man?" She's like, "No.
No,
Have
have
you?"
you?
Like, that is a great part. I love
Yeah,
that
I
movie.
love
I
that.
love her portrayal. But if you make that movie today, Vasquez should be actually, her last name is Vasquez. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's say that she's a white passing Latina. That's
That's true.
cool. Let's cast a passing Latina. Just saying.
Right.
I
Right.
mean, I'm right here.
Exactly. Exactly. And like, yeah, we can do better now, and I think we are. I think we are for sure. So,
Yeah.
and I'm excited to see what the future holds. I'm excited to be part of the future.
Yeah, me too.
So, I think this has been a great conversation. I'm trying to think of more, because I want to keep going, but I'm like, I should probably let you go to bed. It's getting a little late.
Oh, I've got so much shit to do. I'm still writing things for an upcoming project. So I have so much, I'm gonna be up late.
Well, I will wrap this recording up. Thank you so much for being on the show. This has been a blast. I got to have you on again to talk No. What do you got going on? What films are hitting which festivals? And where can the people find you?
So, this is a great opportunity to remind everybody that we have an Indiegogo going on for my newest film called What's Wrong, Wendy. And What's Wrong, Wendy is about a pizza delivery girl who finds herself dead on a Friday night. And yeah, that Indiegogo is going on. So you can check out my social media. I have Instagram at The Goodbye Ghoul. And my film Instagram is Final Ghoul Official. No, it's not. I'm just kidding. It's at Final Ghoul Films. And then my YouTube is Final Ghoul Official. And yeah, you can find out the Indiegogo there. You can watch Rabbit Season at Horror Hound, which is September. Oh, it already passed. Horror Hound already passed by this time. But Horror Hound will be releasing free to the public November, mid-November. It'll be on YouTube. I'm just putting it out there. I don't care anymore. I want the world to see it. And yeah, I'm in a lot of festivals for Rabbit Season, so let's see what we can win.
Yes, I love it. This episode has been so fun, such a blast. And thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Thank you, Spooky, for joining me today and talking all about Latinos and horror with me. This was such a great topic to cover, and I had so much fun. Spooky is killing it in the indie horror world right now. Check out her films Rabbit Season and Cold Feet on YouTube. She has a bunch of upcoming films like Best Wishes and Good Luck, What's Wrong, Wendy, The Boy from Below, and of course, the film that we made together, Spider, is hitting the festivals now. If you like this show or my other horror endeavors, then I recommend subscribing to my Patreon. I retooled it so it is only $3 a month, and you'll get exclusive content, movie reviews, and extended episodes while supporting my art and content directly. If you haven't already, subscribe to the Would You Die YouTube channel. You can watch video versions of the podcast episodes, my short film Ice Cream, and more to come. If you like this show, please let me know. Leave a review and rate on Spotify or Apple or wherever you listen to this show. Also, feel free to interact with me on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, wherever you're most comfortable. It may not seem like a lot, but trust me, every single like, share, comment, follow, it really helps this podcast to grow and helps keep me going. And feel free to let me know how I'm doing. What do you guys like about the show? Areas I can improve? Guests you'd like me to have on? Monsters you want me to talk about? Let me know what you guys think. You can find the show's social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Would You Die Show. Also, now you can follow me on TikTok at Would You Die Podcast. Would You Die is a partner with the Three Wise Men Media, a Metro Detroit-based group of awesome guys Kyle, Tyler, and Dylan, where they bring you professional wrestling, indie comic books, and so much more. The music you hear in the beginning and end of each episode is composed by my friend Josie Palmer. Next week should be a musically good time. Anyone hungry? Until next time, I'm Austin Torres. Try not to die.